Whoever gets the most donations in the lead up to the Christmas season will have officially won the Advent off. Right, so where were we? Let's see, yesterday was the first day of Vlogmas, and believe it or not, we have already raised $140 for Make-A-Wish Foundation. That was part of our $500 goal. So thank you very much to all of you who have already donated. If you would like to do that, then you can find the link in the description. Oh, also, this happened yesterday.
Candle. Oh, look at that. Tobacco, cedar. You know me well.
You like candles when you take baths?
Yeah, I know. I'm just, what motivated the choice of that?
I don't know. It's like a manly smell, I guess.
Yeah. That is not tobacco.
So anyway, back to the Advent calendar. It's a really good idea to use maybe your X-Acto knife or other kind of cutting implement and a hard surface that you're okay with cutting on to cut out those windows and doors, because if you use scissors, it takes way too freaking long. They're tiny and it's just a really big pain. I did that with the first couple of houses, and I'm telling you, if I had to do it with all of them, I probably wouldn't have gotten this project done. You can also see that I'm gluing and, trying to figure out how these little pieces that go on top of the houses should work. All of this was seriously very haphazard, and I just did a whole lot of, I don't know, just playing around with shapes and with patterns and trying to figure out what might work the best, being put together. One of the big things that I've taken away from this is if you try to do this yourself, what you're really going to want to do is make sure that those little tabs that I am using to secure the sides of the houses are actually as long as the side that you're gluing from, because if not, then you get this silly little overhang, and you can see I'm like playing with it. It's so irritating. I know you're not here to just listen to me talk endlessly about these Advent calendars, so let's just get into this, shall we? While we don't know when the idea of Advent first began, it was almost certainly associated with that new hip religion, Christianity, which spread like wildfire, sometimes literally, after the Roman Emperor Constantine's death in 337 AD. Records of adhering to preparations for the Christmas season date back as early as 480, including fasting and paying penance, mostly by early Catholic monks. Then, in the 6th century, the French began a coordinated effort to fast 3 days a week, starting from the Catholic feast of St. Martin until sometimes as late as mid-January. These fasting periods for Advent were wildly popular in Europe until about the 13th century, when it just fell out of fashion. It continued to teeter between being observed or forced upon by the Pope, but it was also even deemed optional by the Greek Orthodoxy. So it's clear from the get-go that early Catholics obviously just couldn't decide what they wanted to do with Advent and its observance. Thus, the practice of Advent or fasting in preparation for the Christmas season was practiced regionally and on different dates, if at all, right up till the Second Vatican Council was called in 1962, giving the idea of Advent a bit of a glow-up, and finally differentiating it from Lent, which was and still is weirdly similar to the fasting in preparation for the coming of Jesus bit. But we do need to rewind just a little bit, because in 16th century Europe, something really important happened. Maybe you've heard of it. It was called the Reformation, and it fragmented Christianity into Catholics and, well, all the other Christians. In the 16th century, there were two important religious factions that actively split from Catholicism, the Lutherans and the Church of England. The Lutherans split because they were upset with the way the Catholic Church was being run, and the English, well, you're just going to have to ask Henry VIII for that. Anyway, both Christian denominations quickly adopted their own Advent traditions that gave more structure to the practice of Advent, specifically using Advent wreaths, lighting candles, and singing carols to mark the season. Martin Luther stressed the importance of teaching children about baby Jesus during the time of Advent, which led to the creation of the Christkind, or Christ child, who would come and give children gifts in an effort to end the more secular traditions surrounding Christmas. So that whole argument about how Christmas is just too commercialized, well, Martin Luther was actually the OG behind it. Not that that stopped anyone, including the Lutherans themselves, of course, because in some places in Europe, since the Reformation, both the Christkind and St. Nicholas brought gifts to children. St. Nicholas on December 6th, and good old Santa on December 24th, when Luther originally meant for the Christkind to come. In the 16th century in Germany, which was literally Lutheran country, mind you, we also see the curation of the first Christkindlemarkets. And on a personal note, going to the Chicago Christkindlemarket is one of my own favorite holiday traditions. And honestly, perhaps the only good thing to come out of coronavirus this year is that Chicago Christkindlemarket finally updated its website. So I'll be sure to link that in the description so that you can enjoy my own beloved tradition of going to the Christkindlemarket yourself. The Church of England gave even more structure to Advent, which initially included celebrations, fasts, or opportunities to pay penitence for almost every day of the Advent season, but that thankfully was pared down a little bit in the 18th century, with specific prayers and penitence being paid on each Sunday leading up to Christmas. Today, Lutherans and members of the Church of England both use a wreath to mark each of the 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas. Now back to the recent history of Advent. Since the 20th century, both Catholic and Protestant Advent traditions are more alive and well than ever, though admittedly in their modern and increasingly secular forms of Advent calendars that don't necessarily mark the days of fasting and penitence as much as they mark them with hope and chocolate. Which brings me to what I chose to include in my own personal Advent calendar this year. As Vicky explained in her own Advent calendar video yesterday, we challenged each other to spend no more than $5 on each day's gift to ourselves. So, being the supposed math genius that I am, I simply found 2 Advent calendars that I liked the look of and divided the amount of gifts by the price. These are the 2 Advent calendars that I chose in the end, because y'all know from a previous video that I truly believe that sugar and the need for skincare go hand in hand. Also, thankfully for you, these Advent calendars are 12 and 7 days each respectively, so there's still time to nab one for yourself if you want. I'll go ahead and link those in the description below. Astute observers, of course, will note that 12 plus 7 does not, in fact, equal 24, so I also treated myself to some nail polish remover, fancy, I know, and 2 Besame Cosmetics face cloths. Oh, and also, just like Vicky, I made up my own rules and placed a piece of paper in each of the little buildings where my Advent calendar pieces did not fit, which was basically all of them. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and of course jingle the bell to keep up with all of the Vlogmas happenings, which of course is your own little Advent calendar, provided by me, of course. And don't forget to tell me in the comments, are you going to use an Advent calendar this year? If so, what are you putting in yours? And here she is, the finished product.